afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is the Yorkshire Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dom, and this week joining me on Zoom are Adam Etherington, Leeds United fan and massive cock-up merchant.
We'll explain that in a minute. You're right, Dom.
Hello, mate. And in the lower half of my screen, Bradford City fan and general gobshite, it's Mike Helinski.
Hey up, Dom. Good to be back. It's been a couple of weeks, so it's good to be back on it, talking football.
Basically, we've had to go again because Adam forgot to press record first time. Boo, Adam.
I was busy slagging everyone else off on the podcast for why we haven't done a podcast in a couple of weeks, and we almost didn't do another one because I didn't press record. So yeah, I'm definitely the villain. Sorry,
I did nearly throw a towel in, to be fair, mate. I nearly said, "Oh, forget it." But I didn't want to upset you. You've been very upset recently, haven't you? Calling everyone a bunch of shithouses.
Yeah, I've called John a Sheffield shithouse. I've called Gooders a Huddersfield. Think of a word with H. It's sorry for not being around for a few weeks, everyone, but hopefully I missed us too much, and we're going to try to be a lot more organised. And Gooders is going to try and plan his IKEA trips on another day every week.
Have you seen the queues at IKEA, by the way?
They're good as well.
Like, miles and miles long. Like, how desperate are people to get a bloody bookcase to build themselves that they queue for hours at IKEA?
The worst thing is, IKEA's one of the worst places to go just on any normal day because you have to go through the whole store and it's chaos. So why would you even consider going now? Yes.
But why do people join the queue? Why do people see the queue that big and join it? I mean, you've got to be pretty desperate to be going to IKEA. Or are we just that bored as a general public that we will just go out and do anything we can?
We should have seen I was driving back from the office today, and you should have seen, because obviously McDonald's drive-thru is officially open today. And I drove past two McDonald's on the way home, and they had police in the road doing the traffic because of the queues for McDonald's. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, I am dying for a McDonald's, and I'm excited to have one, but I wouldn't queue on the first day.
Not going to queue.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
You say a lot about this country when over the pond the police are being used at the moment for racial inequality protests, and over here they're being used to make sure that everyone can queue for their McFlurry fairly.
Holding back all those people because they fancy a fillet of fish.
No one's getting fillet of fish. If you're queuing up for hours for fillet of fish, you're welcome to unsubscribe from this podcast.
No, you're not really. We don't have enough listeners.
Yeah, please. Anyone, fillet of fish eaters, you're more than welcome to join us. Right, Mike and I are very dedicated to this podcast, but I'm addicted to Sons of Anarchy. So let's get cracking. See, that sounded really natural, didn't it? I know I did that before, and I've repurposed what I said. So now I do need to say, "Oh, I told you about that, didn't I?" And then Michael will say, "I've not watched it, lads. You'll have to just crack on with that." And then I'll.
But you sound like Zach Dingle.
Well, if the shoe fits.
Actually, Don, you are getting a bit grey, a bit like Clay now, actually, from Sons of Anarchy. I didn't say that on the previous unrecorded.
I thought you said like Zach Dingle.
Mate, but to any prospective single females listening, telling them how grey I am is not going to help, is it, mate? Come on.
Silver Fox.
Yeah, so I'm going to go George Clooney stroke Philip Schofield. Although not all the way Philip Schofield. Inclined.
Yorkshire Silver Fox with a blue tick. What more do you go on?
And a solid beard.
Exactly.
I bet that's on your Tinder, isn't it, the blue tick? I've got a blue tick on Twitter. That should definitely be in your bio.
I don't have Tinder, mate. It's not for me. I'm a traditionalist. I want to meet a girl in the traditional way. Eyes lock across a room.
Well, you won't have much hope at the minute.
No. As my dog stares at me. I nearly brought Gooders up then. I won't. Let's
Bless him, he's still stood at IKEA.
On his bike. Right, lads, let's get cracking with the podcast. To start this week's episode, we are going to make our league predictions. Of course, we've had the great news that the Premier League and the Championship are back. Of course, we've got Yorkshire interest there, and we will quickly glaze over League 1 and League 2, although the future of those leagues is in doubt at the moment. So, let's get cracking. Let's start with the Premier League. Of course, the Yorkshire interest in there is Sheffield United, who are having a stunning season. Ads, let's start with you. Give us your top 9. Who do you think is going to finish top 9 this season?
So my top 9, I think Sheffield United, just to start on the Yorkshire angle, obviously. I think Chris Wilder, what a job he's done there since he took over, as we've mentioned many times. I was very bitter at the start of this season. I think I did predict them to go down. I think I might have even said finish bottom. But I think that was very much my Leeds hat on as they beat us to second. But they've gone on and they've had a fantastic year. I think in terms of the European places, they might just fall a bit short, but wouldn't surprise me if they actually ended up finishing 6th, 5th, 4th. It really wouldn't, because the way they've risen has just been incredible. So my league table, obviously Liverpool top. What a season they've had, probably what a season we won't ever see again. Man City second, no surprises. I think Leicester will finish third. I always said Brendan Rodgers would be the man I'd quite like at Leeds, to consolidate us back in the Prem one day. Obviously pre-Bielsa, because now we've got God, so we don't really need anyone else. But he's done a brilliant job there. I think Man United probably will sneak into 4th. If you look at their fixtures coming up, they've actually got a decent run in. And I think that new lad in midfield, Fernandes, he looks a bit of a player, unfortunately. I think Chelsea, they'll end up slipping down to 5th. I think just their manager just isn't quite good enough at the end of the day. Mike's grinning away there. No, I just think Chelsea, they're just not quite a finished package. I don't know what it is that's missing with them. It actually might be the manager. I might not be bantering. Tottenham, for me, will finish up in 6th. If the season would have finished as it should have done, I think Tottenham could have been about 9th, because they had a lot of injuries. But this break's actually probably done them wonders. Get Kane back. I think Son were injured. They had a lot of injuries anyway, but I think they'll actually be one of the beneficiaries from this. I think that's where Sheffield United then come in 7th, with Wolves just behind them, and Arsenal. To be honest, Arsenal, I've given up on Arsenal and predicting where they're going to come, because just when you think they're absolutely terrible, they'll turn the performance in. But
obviously pre-lockdown, Arsenal were unbeaten in a while, aren't they? They're probably the informed team at the minute, if you take Liverpool out of the equation. So it just depends how they've responded to lockdown, really, whether that's going to have halted their progress completely and they're going to come back and be as inconsistent as they were, or they're going to carry on that decent form that they were in.
I'm not going to lie, it's outside of Yorkshire and I have absolutely no idea about Arsenal, to be fair.
You don't care, do you?
Nah.
Look at the stats, mate. Look at the stats. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at how many green dots they've got next to their name and then bullshitting rest.
They do have Eddie Nketiah, actually. That's one thing I do know about Arsenal. But and he's a very
Aubameyang,
yeah. Lacazette, goals there, plenty of goals.
What an expert! What a football expert you are. But you're right about Chelsea. Chelsea are very inconsistent under Frank Lampard. I am surprised actually to see them in 4th. Obviously, I've not really looked at the Premier League table, being a League Two fan and all that. But seeing Chelsea in 4th and knowing how inconsistent they are, I am surprised. So yeah, you might be right. Maybe Manchester United will sneak in there above them. I think it's going to be as is. To be honest with you, I think it's going to finish exactly as it stands. Liverpool obviously win by a mile. I know that there's been a lot of not criticism, but people say, well, Liverpool are only doing that because Man City aren't really on it this season. But Liverpool are on 82 points. It's absolutely staggering. Man City, they're sitting on 57 points. Yeah, they should be on, what did you say, the average for the top of the table at this time of year is 62, 65 points, something like that.
Not like that, yeah.
And Liverpool are on 82 points. That is just unbelievable. You're right, what you said earlier, if they hadn't had that freak loss to Watford, it would have been one of the greatest ever Premier League performances had they gone on to go unbeaten. Man City, not on it. They'll finish second. Leicester, another surprise team, and I'm happy to see them back up there after winning the Premier League and then slipping away and looking like they could even get relegated or just linger around the bottom half of the Premier League. To be back up there with a manager like Brendan Rodgers, who seems to be able to get the best out of the players that they already have, is astounding. I think next season could be a really good season for them if they can keep hold of their players like Maddison. Chelsea, Man United may switch places, 4th or 5th for either of those. Wolves, another surprise package as well. I think it must be class to be a Wolves fan. They were a team that I can remember as a Bradford fan playing them in League One, and it doesn't even seem like that long ago. And now they're knocking on, they're playing in Europe and still knocking around the top end of the Premier League table. And I know they had a poor start to the season. So again, stunning job they're doing there. Sheffield United, I know you're going to hate this, ads, but I would love to see them qualify for Europe. I'd love to see them do well. They deserve it. Chris Wilder, former Bradford player, He deserves it. He's done an astounding job at whatever team he's been at, and Sheffield United to do what he's done there with the team that were promoted this season is incredible, really. Tottenham, if they get those players back, they'll be up there and thereabouts. Harry Kane getting a chance to play some football, it'll be good to see how he does. And yeah, Arsenal, I think that, like we were saying, if they can keep up that vein of form they were in pre-lockdown, then I think they'll be all right. I'll quickly touch on relegation as well, because it's obviously pretty tight at the bottom with West Ham, Watford and Bournemouth all on 27 points, and in 15th, Brighton, they're on 29 points as well. And we'll be quick, because obviously there's no Yorkshire teams down there. I think it's going to be, again, as is. I think it's going to be Bournemouth, Aston Villa and Norwich. Of those teams, I'd love to see Bournemouth stay in the Premier League. I think that what's gone on there over the last few years has been brilliant, but it looks like the dream might be over for them, to be honest with you. Watford, I don't know. There's just something about Nigel Pearson that I love. I love that he's brutal honesty. I love the way he talks. And I love the way that he seems to be... No, I'm the opposite of an ostrich, mate. You're an ostrich, denying the greatness of him. The guy's an absolute genius, and the way he can motivate players and manage. Mwah! So yeah, I hope Watford stay up. As for the rest of them, they can all go down. Aston Villa, not that bothered about. They won't let me interview their players last year, would they, at playoffs? So they can go straight down.
You'd say there's not much. Just before Mike, obviously, we come on to your selections, which I'm looking forward to hearing. I think there is a few invitations at the bottom.
Pretty patronising.
No, I am. It probably put Chelsea top. Like, they probably can't mathematically win it, but Lampard, he'll think they can.
His good friend Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I think I have three teams I want to go down, and it's nothing personal. It's just I want Brighton to go down because that increases Leeds' chances of signing Ben White, which is like that's the only reason. I've actually been down at Brighton's training ground and stuff. It's a decent club, and I actually like Graham Potter, but for that reason, selfish reasons, I hope they go down. I think West Ham going down would be having that stadium in the Championship. I'm just interested to see how that dynamic plays out and see what happens at that club. And I think, Karen Brady obviously made a few comments and stuff. I think I do actually think I think West Ham and Brighton will go down as well. And then I think Norwich will go down. I think they're probably just going to lack quality. But if Villa were to go down instead of Norwich again, with last year's demons still in mind, I won't be too displeased to see either of those two to swap places with Leeds, shall we say.
I'll be honest, I was a bit tongue-in-cheek about Aston Villa because to me, like having grown up on football in the 90s, Aston Villa are a Premier League club. I want to see the Premier League with Aston Villa in it. And much as it pains me to say so, Leeds United as well. I think it's going to be brilliant for the region if Leeds go up. Look at Mike crying.
Disagree, mate. Disagree.
But yeah, let's hear from Mike then. Wipe those tears away. What are your predictions?
Yeah. When I was looking at this earlier, and I was trying to work out of whether it'll be sort of similar sort of positions, there'll be much change. So I kept going back to, I just think it's going to be very hard to predict in terms of the way I saw it is the teams have been off for 2-3 months now. A lot of obviously they've not been training as a team. They've only recently gone back. They're starting pre-season friendlies in the next week. So some teams they've been allowed to set up friendlies. So for me, I'm sort of seeing it as a fresh start for all clubs in a way of it's like the start of the season again in a way because they've had such a long period off. So I think we might see a bit of change, if I'm honest, in the positions. I'm not sort of saying, Chelsea are going to go win the Premier League. I still think Premier League's done dusted. Like Adam said, it's a matter of when, not if. But I actually think the likes of Leicester, Chelsea, United, Wolves, we might see a bit of change there. I think I know Leicester on 53 points at the moment, so they're still 8 points clear. But I still think it's up for grabs. I really do. I can't call it because we're on about Arsenal being a form team. If you look at United before the break, in form, Wolves were just as in form as Arsenal before the break. But I think form, forget about it. I think it's been too long of a break to even consider form. So again, I think it's like a start of a new season. So yeah, I think Liverpool definitely win it. I think Man City do finish second. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I think it's anyone's game. I really, really do. And I think even the likes of Tottenham, Like I said, with the players coming back, Sheffield United have got a game in hand on all of those teams. So yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know. I just really think that all those positions are up for grabs. If I had to really say top four, probably will say Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, Man United. I think United are going to pick that fourth place. Europa League, again, way up for grabs. Even if you look at Burnley are only 4 points behind Sheffield United, Wolves.
Mike, can I just interrupt you, mate? I'm sorry. Your opinion is extraordinarily valid, and this is really rude of me. But it just dawned on me who you look like, and I can't stop thinking about it.
Are you ready? I get a different one every week. Go on.
Are you ready? Let's see if you've had this one.
Who's that?
It's got a bit bright, hasn't it? It's this guy from Backstreet Boys. Look at that, he's spot on, mate.
I have not had that one before.
That's not the usual band member he gets, is it, Mike? You're going to tell
everyone? No, I get Tom Parker from The Wanted. I think that's a terrible shout. I think that's a terrible shout.
No, Ad, you've got to screenshot that, mate. Let's put that on Twitter. Is this Mike Kalinske? Get your full face in shot, Mike.
I don't have the goatee.
I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to screenshot on a Mac, so I'm just switching over to my other one.
He's a good-looking guy. He's a very good-looking guy, so I understand why you've picked him. I get it. He's got great skin, great hair, strong little goatee. So I do see why you're saying that. But yeah, Sorry, I've had Tom Parker, I've had Zayn Malik.
Zayn Malik? That comes you from Bradford?
I've had Cristiano Ronaldo. I've had a few, mate.
Ronaldo?
Because of my legs. It's because of the muscles in my legs. But yeah, I've not had that one before, mate.
Wow.
I've actually had that lead singer. I've had that lead singer from The Wanted, you know. Oh, no. Yeah. No, it's not The Wanted, is it? Can't remember what they're called now. He did The Voice, that guy. Irish. Can't remember his name. They're a good band. They sang that "Fall into Pieces." Then.
Anyway, yeah, Burnley.
No. Ads, you look like Aaron Carter, mate. Smashing it, you two, Backstreet Boys, or Nick Carter. That's it, isn't it?
I've had a few Harry Kane shouts in my time. And some people see it, some don't. I mean, I don't actually see it, but.
Well, there's a picture of you and Mike there.
Are you taking a picture?
Good-looking chaps. What can
how do I get this to focus? Oh,
I'll take that.
I'm trying to think what it don't look like now, actually, but I can't.
Right, go on. Your relegation candidates. That's what you were talking about, Burnley or something.
I'm just going to go for the ones that I want to get relegated. I want Villa to stay up. I like Villa. I like everything about them. I like Dean Smith. I love Grealish. So yeah, I want them to stay up. I want Norwich to go down. I want Brighton and Hove Albion to go down, and I probably want Watford to go down as well. So that would mean Bournemouth staying up, West Ham staying up.
What about them? What are you going to disrespect my love of Nigel Pearson by saying that Watford are going to go down? The guy's a genius. You just don't like him.
I don't disagree.
Because he said that ostrich thing.
I just think Watford. Yeah, I'm not that. Watford is a team. I don't enjoy watching. I'm not that bothered about, really, if I'm honest. Got no sort of personal ties to them, really. Well, I haven't any of the others, but yeah, Watford probably the least team out of all of them I'm interested in watching.
No personal ties. One of Bradford's greatest ever exports used to manage Watford. Good old Eddie from Eccleshill.
Ah, yeah, good old Eccleshill lad, yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, lads. I think if we bring this back to Yorkshire, I think last year, if Huddersfield, when they started badly and David Wagner left, I think where would they be now if they'd just appointed Nigel Pearson instead of appointing Seaver or whoever it's called? They might still be in the Prem. Like what he's done at Watford was as doomed as Huddersfield when he took over, and what he's done there.
I think Watford probably have stronger players than Huddersfield had, though. Watford were just struggling for motivation. Like they just looked really forlorn when they were playing. They had no ideas. I think they needed someone who could put a rocket up their ass.
Yeah, I think
that's what's happened because they had good players.
They did have good players at Huddersfield. They had obviously Molly Grant came in the January window. I do agree. Watford definitely have more quality players, but at the same time,
they didn't have a Premier League strength of squad though. Did Huddersfield? I don't think they did enough to improve
They didn't
the
have
squad.
goals in them. They didn't really have goals in them. Like you look at Watford, and you back Deeney every day of the week to score at least 15 to 20 goals a season. But you looked at Huddersfield, and they didn't. Yeah, Moy. Apart from that, in terms of his creativity, he was probably the best player on the pitch. But they brought Grant in, but it was a bit of a shot at the Premier League. Like it's not. He wasn't proven. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. I think they were going either way.
I know it's pretty harsh, but it's kind of they had a forgettable sort of like run in the Premier League, didn't they, Huddersfield? It just seemed to coast by, not real attention paid to it or anything like that. It was a weird one, really.
Yeah. I don't know.
They were just uninteresting, weren't they? They didn't strengthen enough. I think that in an era now where you need to go into the Premier League and you need to strengthen a lot, it's not like when Bradford got into the Premier League, for instance, and you could just bring in one or two new players who might have played for a Premier League squad 10 years previously. Yeah. Now you've got to bring in good quality players. You've got to bring in good quality young players, and you've got to spend money. If you don't do that straight away, you're going to struggle. And if you fluke the first season, you're going to struggle the season after. If you don't, then take the opportunity to strengthen again. And they didn't. They just didn't bring in the strong enough players.
And on that point, I think with Leeds, we're an interesting one. If we do go up this season, we've got a lot of players we've got to sign. We've got to sign Augustine, who we've barely seen, for 20 odd mil. We've got to sign Elder Costa for 15 mil. Jack Harrison will be coming for 8 mil. Meslier, the keeper, that'll be another 5 mil. And when you consider what is it, about £120 million for the cost of promotion, obviously you don't want to spend all that. Say if the club wanted to spend 80 in the first place and keep 40 for, doing whatever to the club.
Well, the entire squad's wages is going to go up as well. That's going to be costly.
The squad's wages is going to go up. There'll be promotion bonuses. Then take off the fact that it's very unlikely that we'll see crowds for all of next season. I don't know if we'll have much extra to spend outside of the players we've got to make permanent. But at the same time, you've got to think a lot of those Premier League clubs will already be, banking on the attendances coming in because their wage budgets will be even higher. I think it's going to be probably the most interesting summer transfer window ever. And I think the prices of players are just going to absolutely plummet, and there's probably going to be a few bargains out there.
I mean, in League One and League Two, you're looking at players who you only give like year-long contracts mostly. Apart from if you're a stupid German who comes into Bradford City thinking you know how to run stuff, who gives crap players 4-year contracts. Anyway, it's normally season-long contracts. So once this season is over and player contracts end, the number of Bosman signings is going to be unbelievable. There's going to be so many players, and competition to bring those players in is going to be unbelievable. So for clubs lower down the league ladder, such as Leagues 1 and Leagues 2, wages are going to be a massive deal because you need to entice those players to your club.
I think the transfer market's going to be just totally different because I think players and agents won't be able to demand what they usually would want to, especially lower down the leagues, because what you might usually get in League 2 for a decent player, 3, 4, 5 grand a week potentially. You're just not going to be able to demand it because the clubs are going to have less income. Like you're on about attendances there. Premier League clubs don't really rely on attendances at all. Commercially, broadcast deals, sponsorship deals, that all drives them every year. League 1, League 2, for example, they do, and obviously some championship clubs do rely on attendances for their main income. So I think, obviously, with lower down the leagues where that's not happening, they're not getting that income, they're just not going to be able to pay their wages. So for me, the transfer market is going to be the most interesting one for me because players aren't going to be able to demand it. There's going to be so many players up for grabs. And I think you're going to see potentially more quality players potentially having to drop down divisions just to get a club. And obviously they're going to have to drop salaries as well. For me, I don't know how to call it. I really don't.
I thought it might go the other way around, If there are so many players available, obviously, like take, for instance, if there's a player that's desirable in League 2 to loads of clubs, then they're going to be able to demand a better wage, aren't they? Because they could just say, well, Plymouth want me, Bradford want me, Blackpool want me. Offer me the best wage and I'll join.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be no transfer fees.
It depends on the salary cap. Obviously, there's talk of that salary cap going into League 2, League 1, which if that does happen, okay, it's a level playing field for everyone. But if you look at Bradford, for example, our budget this year was 2.8 million. And then there's talk of this being around 1.5 million. So if you look at that significant drop in terms of the players we've already got on contract, that'll probably take up the most of that 1.5 million anyway. So we'll be looking at players, trying to pick players up for £1,000 a week just to try and get them under salary cap. But then obviously there'll be ways around that because you'll offer a massive promotion bonuses. There's talk of the Premier League loaning players for free. So yeah, literally, we don't know where it's going to go. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a very interesting one how it works. But it's going to be a really, really strange transfer window market.
And just lastly, I think as well, if you think the season isn't going to end until say end of July, at what point then does the window reopen for the summer transfer window? Is it then a 6-week window? Is it a 4? Is it still end of August? And then all those deals trying to get done so quickly. Or do they just say this season it's exceptional circumstance, there is no transfer window? It's just going to be. Yeah, I know this is a terrible situation, but it is going to be absolutely fascinating to see what happens.
It's not just transfers either. It's obviously what they're going to do with these leagues. I think we're getting a clearer picture of what might happen, but it's just interesting to see what they're going to do, when next season's going to start, how they're going to enable fans to see it. Are we going to buy online season tickets? The quality of what they've produced so far has been on and off. Sometimes it works on iPlayer, sometimes it doesn't. So are they going to sort that out? Who knows? But it needs to be decided, because without it, there's a lot of clubs that rely on income, and Bradford and other teams of that sort of level rely on that weekly income, and I can't see where it's coming from at the minute. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to see. Let's get back on track, chaps, because we need to have a look at the Championship. Now, the Championship has arguably been better than the Premier League, as it is quite often. It's one of the greatest leagues in Europe, and again this season it hasn't disappointed. Obviously, Leeds and West Brom fighting it out at the top. Fulham could have been in there; they let go a little bit. Let's start with you, Mike. Your Championship predictions. Let's just do promotion places on this one.
Let me just grab my beer.
Yeah, so I think the top two are definitely getting promoted. I'm not just saying this because I hate Leeds and all that. I personally think West Brom are going to win the league. I think Leeds will finish in second. And my team to go up through the playoffs is a bit of a not surprising one, but maybe the third sort of favourite in the playoffs. I actually fancy Forest to sneak it through the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, they're a team who are obviously very inconsistent, and if you go off the form, they weren't great before the break. But like I said before, I think forget form. I think it's been too big of a break to even consider form. Like Leeds won 5 on the bounce before the lockdown. Like I said, forget that. So yes, I'm going to go West Brom top, Leeds second, and Nottingham Forest to go up via the playoffs.
I feel like you're just saying that because you don't want Leeds to win the league, which is fine. Which is fine. I did read something today that said the Leeds United players, before they went back to actual training, did some running tests, and they were all fitter than pre-lockdown, which is unbelievable, really.
Are you on about that screenshot I put in our WhatsApp group, Dom, that I was going to use as part of my argument?
Yeah, that's the one. But you didn't need to diminish my source.
For me, I think there's a massive effect, and obviously we'll never understand this because we're not players. But looking at Leeds, for example, when they play at Ellen Road, it's magical for fucking Leeds. Obviously, they've 30-odd fouls or whatever it is. And I'm not saying they win games because of the crowd, but the impact that must have on the players. And my point is that a lot of these teams are going back, playing in empty stadiums, and I appreciate they've all got to do it. But a team like Leeds, where they play at Ellen Road, a full stadium, who literally for 90 minutes, it's an absolute cauldron of noise. I think little things like that will have an effect on a team. And I'm not saying
of
Leeds
course do. It's a massive asset. It's a massive asset, and I don't think that Leeds United are shy about it, are they? We do it.
Exactly. And for me, when I was trying to think of my predictions, all those things were playing into consideration, and I think that will affect Leeds at home, playing in front of an empty crowd, more than maybe some others, because Leeds are used to that cauldron of noise, that atmosphere. But yeah, no, I didn't pick Leeds to go second because I hate them. If I really hated them, I would have said they would have probably fucked up the playoffs. But I think they're going automatically, but I think they're going second.
I do. I can see your game. You're saying we're going to go up, so that when we bottle it, you can even say, no one saw you doing this year. Da, 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 da. But I actually think, on your point around the crowds, I think if you look back last year, that game against Wigan, we were 1-0 up. They were down to 10. They were fighting relegation. I tweeted after that. When we were 1-0 up, I was like, right, good chance to get the goal difference up here. We ended up losing 2-1. I think if you look at that game, then you look at the playoff semi-final capitulation at home against Derby. I think it can actually work against us, the crowd and the pressure, because as soon as it turns, like Ellen Road, I've never been in a place where everyone around you just gets so nervous and twitchy, and every pass back to the keeper, it's, people are looking through their fingers. They can't, they just cannot watch. And I actually think you can make the argument it's going to be positive for us that there's no crowd, which is crazy.
Potentially, I don't see why not. I think, it's difficult to say, really. It's difficult to say because we don't know what it's like to play in front of a big crowd, do we? I mean, we've seen how a crowd can change it, but psychologically, what is that going to do to players? I mean, maybe they're used to it. They play reserve games in empty stadiums and stuff like that. It might just be nothing to them, but you get into the 89th minute and it's 1-1 and you need the win. A crowd can make a massive difference. And Leeds United have scored quite a lot of late goals as well, haven't they, this season?
Yeah.
Are they going to need that?
We're not, at the end of the day, we're not going to know the answer until it's done, until this is all done, are we? But you won't be surprised, lads, with my predictions. I have gone for us to win the league. I think that article you mentioned, Dom, which you took off me, cheers. That proves a lot. I think the fact that the preparation has been so good throughout this period, and I think if anything, the traditional, Bielsa fading towards the end of the season, we've actually had a rest and then another pre-season. If you look at our form at the start of seasons, it's been absolutely unbelievable. And in both years that Bielsa's been here and at all his clubs, really. So I'm very positive. I think that's going to have a good effect on us. I think West Brom will finish second, purely because I actually think there'll be a bit of a gap between us and West Brom. But I think Brentford will finish third. Fulham have got a really tough run in. They've got a lot of the big teams to play, including they've got to come to Leeds. I think they've got West Brom. I think they've got 4 of the top 6. But yeah, so I think Leeds, West Brom, then Brentford, and I think the playoff places Fulham, Forest, and I actually think Millwall have got a good chance of sneaking in 6th. But I do think that Brentford will be the ones who go up in the playoffs. I'm a big fan of Brentford. That front three is electric, especially Ben Rama. I think he's absolutely class. And for me, that's your three to go up: Leeds, West Brom, Brentford for the playoffs.
I mean, that's one way of paying for your new stadium, isn't it? Getting to the Premier League. Brentford will be all right, won't they?
Awful.
Yeah, I feel for Brentford fans though. Obviously, they've probably been to Griffin Park for the last time. Imagine, lads, if
didn't even know
your stadium again. You wouldn't have known the last time you've been.
And then they've got to go to that shit stadium, which looks absolutely terrible.
They've gone for that Australian seating thing, haven't they? That the Australian cricket team have, where they make it look like there are people in it, even though they're not, multicoloured seats.
Yeah,
a bit weird. That I'm not a big fan of that. I would quite like to see Brentford go up. Like I used to, when I worked at Bradford, I used to travel with a team to some matches, and Brentford were the nicest ever club. Like they were so nice, so welcoming. So ever since then, I've had a little bit of a soft spot for them. I would like to see them go up. I think top 2 as is Leeds United are in unbelievable form. I think they're just going to hit the ground running again. I think it'll still be tight between them and West Brom, but I think West Brom, they slipped off the form a little bit, and I think that'll probably carry on after lockdown. So yeah, Leeds to win the league. West Brom, they'll go up in second. Fulham just too inconsistent now for me. I just don't think they look good enough to challenge for the automatics. I think they'll make the playoffs, but again, I think it'll be another disappointing playoffs for them. Brentford, yeah, they'll finish in the playoffs. I'd like to see them go up because they're a nice club. But I think Bristol City might have used the lockdown to regroup a little bit. Ooh. And I think Bristol might finish in the playoffs and could be a surprise package. I'm going to say Fulham, Brentford, Bristol and Forest in the playoffs. And I think Bristol might just have it in them to surprise a little bit and potentially win those playoffs, if not make the final. I know that they're in bad form. I don't think they've won for a while, but a break to regroup is probably what they needed. And I would quite like to see it as well. And it's not just because Naki Walls plays for them. I think Bristol, they've always had a little bit of something about them, and they could spring a surprise this year, I reckon. But yeah, I mean,
those clubs, Leeds fans have got it in for Lee Johnson a little bit. To be honest, I wouldn't mind it if they went up. I think actually they'd offer something to the Prem.
Well, I do quite like new teams to beat Premier League as well. Like, I didn't mind when Huddersfield went in. Obviously, when Bradford went in, that was kind of an unusual promotion. Bournemouth. I like it when that happens.
Yeah,
you don't just have the same team.
Brentford or Bristol City can make that argument, and it's been that long since Forest were in the Premier League as well. I suppose you could argue that they'd be a good addition back up there as well. So. Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that are in there in that hunt for the playoffs and championships. That's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah, you're right, because Millwall, Cardiff, Blackburn, and even Swansea potential. There's still enough games to go. Mathematically, they could still make it up there. Obviously, there's Yorkshire interest at the bottom end of the table as well. Sheffield United, their season's pretty much a write-off. They're sitting in 15th at the minute, and it's not going to get any better than that. Huddersfield, dismal again. They're in 18th. I can't see that they'd get relegated, but it's possible. They could still get drawn in. I think relegation down there is probably going to be as it stands at the minute. Charlton, Luton and Barnsley. Barnsley have obviously struggled a little bit this season. I can't see that improving. Hull as well. I'm really surprised to see Hull down at the bottom this season and in terrible form. They've not won for a while. They've lost the last 4, lost 5 of the last 6. Pretty appalling, really.
I fancy them to go, mate. I really do think Bowyer keeps Charlton up. I really do. I think Hull, since obviously they lost the 2 strikers in January, never replaced them. No goals.
Well, you've got to consider Charlton are struggling to get some of their better players to actually commit to playing the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, Taylor's a big one. Taylor, if they cannot persuade him to come back, that's a big issue. That's a big issue for him. But I don't know. I just think Bowyer's got something in him to keep him up. Luton and Barnsley have gone. Obviously, we've seen Luton have reappointed, brought back Nathan Jones. But yeah, I think Barnsley and Luton, and I'm going to go Hull for my bottom 3, with Charlton just staying up.
I would quite like to see Charlton stay up. I think that playoff final that we saw last year was one of the best playoff finals I've ever seen. Charlton played really well there, deserved to stay up, but yeah, it's whether they've got that fight. I think that both them and Hull are struggling for form at the minute. Of those bottom sides, it's Barnsley. Barnsley have won 3 of their last 6, although they've not won in the last 2.
Well, Dom, that's my hot take from these predictions. So my bottom 3, I'm going to go 7 points adrift Barnsley as it stands with 9 games left. I'm going for Barnsley to survive, and that's not because they're a Yorkshire side.
That's bold, very bold.
I think if you look at Luton, they're only a point behind them, and like you say, before the lockdown, they were in better form. I don't think it means much, like Mike said, but I do.
Managers never succeed when they go back either, do they? I reckon he'll fail now. The fans will turn on him.
That's it. And they've got a new manager, new way of playing to adapt to. I think Barnsley were just getting things together, and I think if they can somehow refine that form, I don't see Charlton and Hull picking up many points between now and the end of the season. Charlton, for the issues we've mentioned, players striking, and then Hull, obviously. They've just not got the quality they had at the start of the season when they were picking up the points with Bowen and Grzycki. So for me, I think the 3 to go down will be Luton, Charlton and Hull, unfortunately. And I think Barnsley, I think they're going to do it. And to be honest, I might put a bet on it because it might be pretty decent odds.
Why don't you get Bristol City to go up as well? Imagine the price you get on
that. Well, I don't know about the Bristol City. I'm just going to check the odds now, actually, for Barnsley to stay up. I might. Have we ever had a bet being put on live on air? Relegation. Barnsley are 1-5 to go down. I don't know what price they are to stay up. But yeah, it's. I don't know. I've just got this feeling. They always seem to rally as well, don't they, Barnsley, in the season? So we'll see.
Okay, well, let's quickly move on to League One then. Obviously, we've got Yorkshire interest in there and Rotherham, who currently sits second. I'll get us cracking with this. Again, I think unless they finish the league now, which is a possibility for Leagues 1 and League 2, I do think it's going to be as is anyway. I think Coventry, looked really good this season, really strong. I can see them back in the Championship next year without a doubt. Rotherham, they've had a good season, although Oxford just behind them. They're in decent form pre-lockdown, won 5 of the last 6. And Rotherham have been struggling to get a win. But I think top 2 there is going to be Coventry, and Rotherham will get another Yorkshire side back into the Championship. Playoffs, they'll be made up of Oxford, Portsmouth, Fleetwood and Peterborough. I think Sunderland have been poor, really. I think they'll be... I know, although they're level on points with Peterborough, I think that they'll be lucky to go up. I don't think they've been good enough, really. I think Phil Parkinson struggled to get the best out of those players, but I don't think any other manager would have done better. I think the whole club feels just a bit rotten, really. If you watch that documentary on Netflix, God, it's a bit of an eye-opener. Donny Rovers, I think for them, that's it. 9th, as far as I'm concerned. They've done all right. They've done well to finish 9th, but it'll all be about next season for them. And yeah, that's it for me there. I don't think there's any further we need to go into. Mike, sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, I personally think League One, we don't see it restart. I think we're going to see a similar style to League Two. I know there's a lot more clubs making noises, Portsmouth, your Sunderlands, your teams with the bigger budget.
It's still undecided at the minute, isn't it? It's still undecided. Although all the clubs agreed on it in principle.
Yeah, we might know a little bit more on Monday, but I just think there's too many teams in there. Like League Two are just not going to be able to afford to be played behind closed doors. All the same arguments a lot of League Two teams are having. The cost to have regular checkups in terms of obviously the COVID test, etc. So yeah, I just think there's more clubs in that league who will vote against it because of the affordability. But if it does go ahead, I think Coventry to go up automatically, and I also think Portsmouth to go up automatically. I think they're my 2. The playoffs, I think Rotherham, Oxford, Peterborough, and I'm going to go for Fleetwood to drop out, and I'm going to put in Sunderland and Parkinson to get in there, and Sunderland and Parkinson to take Sunderland up via the playoffs. I just think Parkinson has got that grip of taking on a team later in the season, taking on a bit of a run, getting the playoff position, and when you get in the playoffs, you don't bet against Parkinson in the playoffs. He just knows how to do it. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. But Portsmouth are the one for me if it does go ahead, and that will get autos alongside Coventry.
Yeah, I think the top 3. I do think Coventry will, they'll outperform everyone else at the top. They have got a nice little cushion and a game in hand, so I think they'll probably have enough in the bank already to stay clear. Obviously, if it resumes, not sure what's going to happen. I think the race for second is going to be probably, if the league does resume, it's going to be fascinating again. There's a lot of teams there, very, very close in point. I mean, 3 points separates 7 clubs, with games in hand all over the shop. But for me, it will be between Rotherham and Oxford. I'm going to say Rotherham see it through and stay in second, with Oxford just behind them. Then a little bit of a gap forming below. I do agree with Mike, and if Sunderland do get in the playoffs with Parkinson, that game manager style of coaching that he has, they'll be tough to beat. But Oxford, for me, they've got a lot of goals in them. They're a very exciting side, and even though they lost a couple of players in January, but it didn't seem to affect them at all. So for me, the top 3 will be the 3 who go up: Coventry and Rotherham automatically, then Oxford in third. But in all honesty, this division is far from over if it is played out.
Okay, well, we've rattled on for quite a long time, so let's quickly skim over League Two. Like we said, I've actually spoken to a couple of the clubs recently, and it was agreed at the AFL meeting in principle that everyone would vote to stop the league, and it'd be decided on a points per game basis, in which case Swindon Town would have been crowned champions of League Two. But that doesn't seem to have transpired. Nothing's happened yet. I suspect League One and League Two will both be terminated and decided on a points per game basis. But looking at the table, I think Swindon probably would have finished top. Those top 3 deserve to go up. All have been pretty good this season, pretty consistent. Exeter, they deserve to go up in the playoffs again. they've been all right this season, a little bit inconsistent recently, but they've done well to cling on. I mean, they were very similar to Bradford first half of the season, picking up points where they didn't expect and losing points where you'd expect them to win. Very similar to Bradford, and we were neck and neck for a while. But they let the foot off the gas a little bit. Bradford let them foot off the gas a little bit more. Bradford, they've slipped down to 9th, which is where they're going to finish. Exeter, though, they've just about clung on, and I think in the playoffs, it's going to be tough. Cheltenham have also been good this season. It's going to be Exeter, Cheltenham, Colchester and Northampton in those playoffs, but I think Exeter will prevail and get promoted. I think they deserve it, depending on what happens at the end of the season, obviously.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this season, I think League Two is written off. I think it's just going to be playoff games. And in the playoff, I'm actually going for Cheltenham. They're one of the best teams I've seen this season in League Two in terms of footballing. The way they play out from the back, I think it's one of the best in the league. It's just obviously they've not been as consistent as your Plymouth, your Swindons, but in the playoff, I think we're going to see another failure by Exeter City. They always seem to bottle it, and they've been in and around there for many years now. But yeah, Cheltenham Town's my money on if it goes ahead on a points per game and then the playoffs.
Well, they're in decent form, aren't they, Cheltenham? Obviously, they've won 5 of the last 6.
Yeah.
Drew last time out, but if they can keep that form up, I mean, I don't think you're totally wrong. I just think Exeter are going to use the time off to gather themselves a little bit, and hopefully they can come back and recapture some of that early season form and get themselves promoted. But you're right, they could capitulate. They've done it before, so who knows? Ads, what about you?
Well, when I said I didn't really know how Arsenal are these days and if they're any good, then that pretty obviously means I'm not massively in tune with League Two. But yeah, I'll go with assuming the top 3 go up, I'll go with Cheltenham as well. Purely because
have a quick look at the form in the last 6, mate. Make your mind up.
I think one thing I'll always go on is goal difference. I always think a good goal difference is a sign of a good team. Exeter, Cheltenham have got a much better goal difference than Exeter, Colchester and Northampton. So I'm just purely going off that, and I'm going to back Cheltenham to do the business in the playoffs.
Yeah, looking at that, Cheltenham have actually got the best goal difference in the whole league.
Yeah, and a game in hand as well.
Yeah, I should have looked a little bit more closely. And they signed Alfie May in January, didn't they? He was a class player from Donny.
Yeah, good player. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. We'll quickly touch on Bradford, Mike. Crap. So ninth will do.
Yeah,
absolutely awful season.
Take that. It's not a bad position if you look at the last couple of years, but yeah, it's just.
And we were both at the game last time out at Salford, and it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen in the entire history of Bradford City. They were honestly, they could have just put on a group of kids. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
No, yeah,
so bad.
Was that your last game?
Yeah, 7th of March.
Thank God. Would have been relegated if we carried on. Absolutely awful.
I'm not surprised you're not missing football, lads.
We've absolutely trimmed our squad as well. We've been half the squad off.
Yeah.
We'd have been them all off if we could as well, I think.
It's all ifs and buts, but obviously it would have just been good to see where we would have actually finished with 9 games to go, whether we would have had a bit of a push.
Well, Stuart's a bit like that Parkinson thing, isn't he? He's a motivator.
Yeah.
There's every chance going into that last few games, if you're only a couple of points off, he could have got us in there, I suppose.
And our running really wasn't too bad, but yeah, it's all ifs and buts. But yeah, it is what it is. Ready for next season. League Two champions, 100 points. Can't wait. Bring it on.
Could be worse. Could be Stevenage.
yeah, that is worse.
Barrow away next season. I can't wait.
That's the good thing about the lower leagues, though. Barrow away. Yeah. That'll be a quality game.
Oh,
yeah, get to visit new stadiums every season in League Two these days. Okay, well, that was our lockdown end of season table predictions special. It remains to be seen what's going to happen in Leagues 1 and League 2. It looks likely that they're going to be called off, as we said. So if you support a team, a Yorkshire team in League 1 and League 2, all the best for next season. Championship and Premier League will continue. It looks like Leeds United are going to get that dream promotion that they've been trying for, 15, 20 years to get. And what was I going to say there? Fucking hell, my mind went blank. I've had too many lines. It's all right. You can leave this in. Good comedy.
Marcelo Bielsa's statue going up by the time everyone's back into Leeds City.
If they put a statue up of it, I think he's the most overrated bloke on the planet.
Maybe
weirdo.
Here he is behind us. There he is.
No, he seems nice enough. He said hello to me when I went down to training ground, so he's my good friend now. Yeah, so Leeds United are going to get that promotion, and Yorkshire, it looks like, are going to have a couple of teams in the Premier League next season. Leeds United, Sheffield United will be an absolute barnstormer. Bradford City, they've cooked it up. That's the conclusion on that one. And the Premier League, Liverpool obviously going to be crowned champion. But good football is returning. We've all had enough of that German nonsense. We want our good old English Premier League, Championship, League One and League Two back. And it's all coming back soon. So we'll see you next week, where we promise we will do a Yorkshire flashback. We've got a Bradford City v Leeds game lined up, and it is an absolute peach. Mike has been salivating at some of those juicy tackles.